Here comes the 20th Century Limited, streamliner between New York and Chicago. Yes, stop, look, and listen to the celebrated sports announcer Bob Elson as he interviews some of America's leading personalities on the new luxurious New York Central Streamliner, the 20th Century Limited. Brought to you by the makers of Crank Shave Cream, Colorback, and Marrow Oil Shampoo.
Hello, friends. This is Bob Elson aboard the 20th Century Limited, one of the world's great trains, where we have a host of travelers today and some very interesting people. I'm going to ask Miss Florence Mary Fitch to be our guest. She's a former professor of religion at Oberlin College. She's the author of several books, one on one God, the ways we worship him, and another on their search for God, the ways of worship in the Orient. I understand, Miss Fitch, that you've done considerable traveling?
Yes, I've been in the Orient 2 or 3 times, and have made a special study of the religious customs and practices of the people over there.
I wonder if you wouldn't tell us something about them.
Well, it's a little hard to put it all in just a few moments. Of course, you find in Hinduism and Buddhism in India and the other southern countries, and then Confucianism in China and Shinto in Japan. Everywhere Buddhism has gone in that part of the world. And the thing that interests me is in one hand, the very great differences among them, but on the other hand, the idea that people are all everywhere searching for God and trying to find in him the satisfaction of their lives.
How long have you been a teacher of religion, Miss Fitch?
Well, almost longer than I'd want to confess. First, for the most part, I've been teaching the Bible and biblical literature, but I've also taught the religions of the other parts of the world.
When did all this start and where?
Well, I think it started way back in my childhood because my father was a clergyman and I grew up interested in the church and religion. And then I went on with graduate study in philosophy, but little by little worked over into the field of religion in Oberlin College, where I've taught ever since I was a young woman.
Where did your father practice?
My father was pastor in Buffalo, New York, so that this part of the world is our home country, along the New York Central.
Yes. I wonder if you tell us something about your book, One God, and the ways we worship him.
In that book, I take up the American forms of religion that are most common, that is, the Jewish, the Catholic, and the Protestant faith. I try to describe it graphically for boys and girls in their school days, and the books are profusely illustrated, showing the various religious practices in these different churches, trying to bring out the idea that although we all believe in the same God that the Jews first knew about and taught, that we have many different ways of worshiping him.
What in all of your experience and all of your travels would you say is the oddest way that you have noticed that people worship God?
Well, that's a bit difficult question to answer because there are so many interesting things. Perhaps one of the ones that impressed me most was in the Hindu temples in India, where people come in with their very little gifts because they are so poor and bring just a little rag from their clothes or a piece of coconut that they can put before the image of their god, or a little tiny dish in which they put a wick and a bit of oil and set a light. And as one Hindu said to me, you put your light there before the god and pray that your life also may be a light.
Miss Fitch, what about Shintoism? What exactly is it?
Well, Shinto is the national faith of Japan. Literally, it means the way of the gods, of the divine spirits. Of course, the most characteristic feature of it has been the worship of the emperor and of the royal family, believing that they were direct descendants of the sun god. But they do not feel that that is an essential part of their faith, so that Shintoists believe that they can carry on their religion even though they no longer deify their emperor.
What about the Chinese? Do they still believe, the old thinking about, that their ancestors?
Well, they are still, most of them, very loyal to Confucius, although some feel that he emphasized the past too much and that they need to push on to something new. There is great loyalty to the family and to the ancestors still, but I'm sure that the war will have made a very great change because so many people have been disrupted from their own homes and their family lands, and they have to learn to think in a new life. But their religion was always primarily a religion of social behavior and of personal relations, and those things don't have to change with the changing times.
Well, Miss Fitch, it's been so nice having this interesting chat with you on the Century. And by the way, to keep your lovely hair even lovelier, here's a bottle of Marrow Oil Shampoo.
Thank you very much.
That was Miss Florence Mary Fitch, a professor of religion at Oberlin College, and as you've just heard, considerable of a world traveler. And now for just a minute, I'd like the attention of all of our listeners who have gray hair. Did you know that in many occupations, a more youthful appearance is a necessity, and that many people are let out of their favorite work every year because gray hair makes them look older than they really are? Well, that's a fact. So try the new improved Colorback, that marvelous solution for artificially coloring gray hair that has been used by thousands of people without harm to impart color and charm to their gray hair and to make them look years younger. Why, all you have to do is to sprinkle a few drops of Colorback on your comb and comb it through your hair. Do this at home every day for a while, and then use it regularly, only once or twice a week, just to keep your hair looking nice. It costs only a few cents a week, and the best part of it is that many users report that the change is so gradual that even their best friends soon forgot that they ever had gray hair. Remember, if you can simply comb your hair, you can get just as perfect results as you could get from an expert. And besides, you save yourself hours of time and many dollars in money. It must remove every trace of grayness and make you look a lot younger and often more attractive or your money back. So buy your bottle of Colorback at your drugstore today. We have a very well-known Hollywood personality as our guest on the Century today, Mr. Lee Duncan, the man who is responsible for the wonderful motion picture dog Rin Tin Tin. He, by the way, has Rin Tin Tin III with him today, and he's one of the most beautiful dogs that I have ever seen. Mr. Duncan, tell us a little bit about the first Rin Tin Tin.
Well, I'd be very, very happy to, because there's many a grandmother listening in that remember the thrills of the Come On Ritty that they're seeing on the television today. But Rin Tin Tin, you see, was just a little orphan puppy that I picked up while I was flying one of the old DH-4s in the old days at Toul, France. The dog is more or less a reflection of the master. Those of you who remember Rin Tin Tin may happen to see me on television. I hope you won't be too disappointed, because I know you loved Rin Tin Tin. This dog, Rin Tin Tin III, is a grandson. Dogs, like people, some are more interesting than others. He's interesting because he is the grandson, but he's most interesting because he put 3 years in the service. He has his serial number. He also carries his wounds. I wouldn't say he had a club foot, but those here would notice that his left hind foot has been crushed for 3.5 months. He wore a cast on that foot. You'll notice the scar on his throat, where he had to carry a tube in that throat, just like a man out in the alley had to put his finger over his throat so he could talk to me. And so we're going on to New York, and we're having the pleasure of decorating one of the most outstanding. He's a patrol boy, and he happens to be an Eagle Scout. Those listening in and read Boy's Life know that Rin Tin Tin III, I guess one of the greatest tricks he ever did when Dr. Fretwell last year made him the national mascot of the Boy Scouts of America. We're proud of that.
Yes, I'm sure you are. Mr. Duncan, what about the beginning? What about how did you and Rin Tin Tin first get started in the movie?
Well, they used to refer to me. You see, I'm a third-generation Californian, and they used to refer to me as a boy that would never make good. He'll never amount to a hill of beans, they used to say. He's gone all day with his dog and his horse and his gun. After graduating from high school, I was selling guns and ammunition. The next day after war was declared, I enlisted and synchronized the first machine gun, and on August the 9th, 1918, flew it over the lines. I was shot down in action on November the 3rd, and so the gun has been a great part of my life. I'm now teaching live ammunition to Boy Scouts, just like I did in the Canine Corps, and taught the dogs to go with the boys under live ammunition out at Barstow. Many of the boys listening in will remember the remarks that I made, boys, keep your head down, and same to the dogs. And so I've always had a dog, sir. I can't remember when I didn't have a dog.
Well, did you have a problem in selling anybody in the movies on the use of a dog?
Oh, did I have a problem? You see, I was raised there and knew everybody in the picture business, but they just wouldn't let me in. They explained it was how much loss of time that the animal. But I said, I have the greatest dog in the world, sir. I'm sure if you'd let him. But not until what we called in those days on Sunset was known as Poverty Row. And at the very end, in an old barn, it was Mr. Harry and Mr. Jack Warner that gave me my first start with that picture that I had written. And at high school, I wasn't very much of a writer. I'd just get about a 78. But I wrote Where the North Begins, and it was sort of brushed up a little bit for me. But that was the first picture, and it was an immediate success. I made 22 pictures at Warner's, and Rin Tin Tin died in 1932, buried in a brown casket at my home in Beverly Hills. I have an 80-acre ranch in the heart of Riverside where Will Rogers and I were making the horse pictures I made the race for life with Rin Tin Tin, and you remember when he used to sing to his horse to win? Well, the horse that we had was inspired by the boy in Rin Tin Tin, but the opposition had the boy tied in the top of the barn, but Rin was there in time to chew the rope loose and get the boy and come out and inspire the horse to win the race.
Yes. Mr. Duncan, what in your opinion has been the most remarkable thing that these dogs have done?
Well, of course, this war has given us a chance to go ahead. And as I processed over 5,000 boys at Marchfield and Camp Han, California, and I'm meeting the boys as I travel, why, I think that gave us an opportunity. In other words, I think I have learned more in that 3 years in the Army this time, which is the second one, and I've been asked for a recall to put these dogs into jet-propelled planes, and so that no one else could touch them but the boys that flies them. It costs much money to put a plane in that stage and put the boys that these dogs, if in trouble, I'm sure will be of service again. And I think that's one of the greatest things. I know of the boys that are listening in, because in Greeley, Colorado, last year, a boy come running up, put his arms around this dog, tears in his eyes as his wife and 2 children come along. He said, "Rin, you taught me a lot." He told exactly how many years, how many months, days, and minutes that the Germans had him prisoner. And it's boys that I meet along the line who are with me at old Camp Han, and if any of them are listening in and had the pleasure of working with the dogs, I'm sure they'll agree with me that the greatest work that the dogs ever did was in the Canine Corps.
Will Rin Tin Tin say hello for us?
Why, he'd be happy because I know his friends are listening in. Rin, would you say hello? Just speak right up. A little louder.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. It's been so nice having you as our guest.
Let's hear it. Just a serious.
Well, he's certainly a very beautiful dog. And by the way, try a shave with our product. It's Crank Shave Cream with Dioxin, and it's wonderful. And it's moving up to the #1 spot all over the nation. And that was Mr. Lee Duncan, a very prominent Californian, and the owner of the famous Rin Tin Tin. If you have gray hair, which you feel might prove a handicap or a drawback to you, get a bottle of the new improved Colorback, the scientific solution for artificially coloring gray hair. Sprinkle a few drops of Colorback in your comb and comb it through your hair every day for a while, and then regularly only once or twice a week. Be sure to get a bottle of Colorback from your druggist under the maker's guarantee that it must remove every trace of grayness or your money back. It's Kolorback, Colorback. And this is Bob Elson saying goodbye for today from the world-famous Streamliner, the 20th Century Limited.
Be sure to stop, look, and listen next time you hear Bob Elson on the Century coming your way.
Marrow oil shampoo is wonderful.
Why have hair that's dry, drab, unruly, lifeless looking, and your scalp itchy because you need a Marrow oil shampoo? Play safe. Do what professional beauty operators do. Use the famous gentle cleansing action of Marrow oil shampoo. Special blend of pure, rich oils to change dull, lifeless hair to easy-to-manage hair that gleams and sparkles with brilliant beauty. Will not dry out hair and scalp because it's Marrow oil. Cannot leave soap film because it's Marrow oil. Marvelous before and after permanence, and for hot Marrow oil conditioning treatments. Have lovelier shining hair with genuine Marrow oil. Wonderful for all your family. 2 types, non-foaming or super foamy. Take your choice. Get Marrow oil shampoo in the special hand grip bottle at drug counters everywhere.